My name is Aidan Quirke. I was a member of the 1963 winning team with Oylegate-Glenbrien. 1963 was a very good year for Oylegate Club because we won the Senior Championship, the Senior Hurling Championship. The girls, the ladies, won the Senior Camogie final, and McNolan got an All-Ireland minor medal when they beat Limerick in Croke Park that same year. So all in all, that was a good year for the club. Oylegate club had been knocking on the door for some years before that. They had won 4 junior championships, and in 1959 I was on the team that won the intermediate county championship. And after we won the final and we were senior then the next year, and a lot of people said like that the step up was going to be too much and that we'd be as well stay down. But anyway, being 20 years of age, you feel as good as anybody, and we went ahead. And despite the experts and whatever, we found ourselves in the county final in 1960 against the Harriers. But the Harriers beat us that day. The Harriers had a very strong group that time. They were lucky they had a lot of fellas from other counties working in the town, and they were able to call on a good balance, good selection. So they beat us in the final. But we were thereabouts for the next couple of years. But when 1963 came along, and the lads from Ballyhogue had of course a football team. They were a football club. In fact, they won the senior championship the same year. They won the senior football championship in '63, and 4 of the lads that played with us had got medals for football the same year. But anyway, in '63 then we had a very, very good, strong panel and very well balanced. And of course we had behind us Pat Nolan in the goal, which of course there was no better than Pat. And in front of him we had Art Bennett, Jimmy Fanning and Paddy Welsh. And they were a fairly sturdy half-back, or the full-back line as well. Then the half-back line was John Nolan was in the centre, Eddie Welsh was on one wing and I was on the other wing. John, of course, was the mainstay of that line because John was an excellent hurler and a great man to read a game. You know, he always was there to encourage for the like of us fellas that were coming on. He would never give out to you, but he'd say, you're doing well, you know, keep going till the final whistle. Because John always had a thing that a defender was always maybe had a losing, because he said, and he was right, you could out-hurl your opponent for 55 minutes and he could get a ball and stick it in the net or over the bar in the last 5 minutes, win the game, and he'd be the hero of the hour and your work, you know. But anyway, that was the half-back line. But then right in front of us we had 2 big men. We had Phil Wilson and Willie Foley, and they were a fair midfield pair. And midfielders in those days were really important because the big heavy ball, the puck-outs rarely ever came beyond the middle of the field in those days. And if you didn't win your share of the ball in the midfield, you were in trouble. But Willie and Phil made sure that we got our fair share there. And in front of them then we had Aidan Ryan in the centre, with Martin Murphy on the wing, and we had McFortune on the other side. And them 3 were fairly useful. They were well capable of taking their scores when the chances had come. And then the last line then we had 3 big fellas over 6 foot. We had Simon Lampard full, Joe Foley one side and Liam Swan on the other. And they were, in any man's land, they were a handful for any full back line. So all in all, that year we had a good outfit, and if we had been together for a number of years, I'd say we could have won a lot more really than that particular one, you know. there was selectors, and yeah, there would have been Johnny Lamper was on the selector, and there was from the Oylegate representatives on it as well. Like, yeah, actually the hurling, everything was done different really in those days, and the hurling that time was totally different to the hurling now. I often remember that there's no way when we were tossed that we were playing that way, that we would turn around and poke the ball back to Pat Nolan. If we did, we were run. You know what I mean? That didn't happen, and I never could ever envisage Pat Nolan poking the ball out to his corner back and then run the rest of the field with it. You know, that wasn't our way of hurling. We had instructions, if you were out on the wing, get that ball into the full forward line, drop it in front of him, and don't hold it up. And if you can double on it coming down the line and keep it going, don't stop, don't hold up the play. So I can't have to look at this thing now when I see a fella getting on the hurl and he starts off and he run, and somebody else is running equally as hard beside him, pass it over to him. So modern hurling is totally different. Sure, there was great excitement and all in the build up to it. Sure, naturally, a team after coming from the intermediate into the senior and then being wind up in a county senior hurling final, there would have been big excitement. But the training and all, of course, that time too, it was totally different. And of course, we had none of the facilities that they have nowadays. I mean, our training was to go to Nolan's Field every Tuesday evening and every Sunday afternoon. And you rolled up your bundle of clothes and you put them under a bush or something on the ditch until you were finished and hope it didn't rain in between. And in the off season or the dark evenings, John would get the bike out on the road, and he'd ride around through Ballyrannan and out to Glenbrien and back to the field, and we'd all run the road after him when the land was too wet maybe to run or to train on. But we had no dressing rooms and we had no club rooms, and we had none of that. Like, it was hurling, rural clubs was pretty basic in those days. On the day, it was in October, end of the year, but it was reasonably good. It was a dry day. I mean, we had played in some from very bad days, and I suppose. 50, 60. We probably had bicycles. We went in, because we used to go all the matches everywhere. We remember riding to Ross to play and Wexford Park to play and Gorey to play. So, like, you know, bicycles was our mode of transport. And like, we knew a bit about Horsewood coming into the final, because they had some fine hurlers, Hartleys and those fellas in their day too. But obviously thing went our way on the day and we came out the right end of it. It was only just barely a sideline that time. There was no stand, there was no nothing. There was only, I mean, the people were sitting or standing there, and then you could just walk over in on the, you know, there was nothing division between the spectators and on the field. And in those days, definitely there was no stands or anything in it. There was a kind of a dressing room up in one end of it, all right, but you might be able to, but there was no such thing as a shower or a wash or anything afterwards yet. It was huge crowds in it. I think it was with the Shamrocks and ourselves, I think, that had one of the biggest crowds, around 10,000 at the time, which was a huge. I remember being in Bellefield and looking around, and there was lads up in the trees, and there was fellas standing on the roofs of houses, and there was fellas just about everywhere, you know. On the final day with Horsewood, we won the match by 6-9 to 2-4. Our forward line that they struck it well. They had a good hour's work. After the match, and obviously there was great celebrations and all. It was the first time so many, back from the previous time, it was 19 and 15 and 19 and 16 that Oylegate-Glenbrien had won senior honours. So there obviously was a big celebration in the parish, and I do remember going around to the school and to the pubs with the cup at the time. Pat Nolan and myself, I remember going to Oylegate to the pub with it. We were two pioneers. We weren't the greatest advertisement for filling a cup, but however we went there and we had some great nights. And yeah, it was a very exciting time, and a time long past now, and a lot of people have come and gone since, and there's nothing, only the memories left now.